Most people think that world-class success is just the result of raw talent or, this relentless grinding hustle. We are constantly sold this idea that if you just work longer, sleep less, and grind harder, you'll eventually reach the top. But the reality, it's completely different. The most elite performers on the planet aren't operating on endless motivation or some genetic lottery ticket. Actually, they are running highly calibrated, largely invisible systems. And understanding this changes absolutely everything about how you approach your life and your career. So welcome to this explainer, where we're going to extract the hidden mechanics of elite performance from our source material and transform them into a practical system you can start using literally tomorrow morning.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The traditional model we've all been taught is linear, right? More hours equals more output. This is the classic hustle culture myth. But there's a critical flaw in this thinking. Linear effort actually leads directly to burnout, massive decision fatigue, and total biological depletion. The elite performer reality operates on a completely different paradigm. It's based on oscillation. That means alternating periods of intense, deep focus with periods of real strategic recovery, all anchored by a highly optimized morning routine. As it turns out, external success is highly predictable if you just have the right internal system.
So if this system is really this clear, why in the world is it so hard to implement? Why do we read about these incredible routines, try them out for a few days, and then snap right back to our old habits? Well, the deeper reason most people fail to level up is that they're only treating the symptoms of their underperformance. They try to change their output without ever changing the underlying machinery. They focus entirely on their thoughts, truly believing that a positive attitude all by itself is going to revolutionize their lives. But as we'll see, that is a massive misunderstanding of how human mastery actually works. Now, here is where the traditional self-improvement model just completely shatters. For decades, we've been told over and over that mindset is everything. But according to the source material, mindset is actually only 25% of the personal mastery equation. Think about that. If you only upgrade your psychology, your thoughts, and your beliefs, you're leaving 75% of your human potential completely untapped. To build a world-class life on the outside, you have to systematically engineer 4 distinct empires on the inside. Because look, a brilliant mindset is totally useless if it's being secretly sabotaged by a toxic heart set. Heart set is the cultivation of your emotionality. It's how you process and dissolve negative emotions, fear, and past resentments. You could have the absolute best goals in the world, but if your heart is full of doubt or anger, you will subconsciously tear down your own progress. So alongside mindset and heart set, this system requires you to optimize your health set, which is your physical vitality and physiology, and your soul set, which is your sense of spiritual purpose and inner peace. Balancing all 4, that's what actually unlocks your true primal power. So, the crucial point here is that to optimize these 4 empires, you absolutely need a dedicated, distraction-free window of time. The source points to 5 a.m. as the ultimate biological and psychological sweet spot. But here's the multi-million-dollar question. Why do 95% of people fail to make waking up at 5 a.m. a lasting habit? The answer isn't that you lack discipline or that you're just not a morning person. No, the answer is that you just don't understand the mechanical protocol of habit installation.
And that brings us to the habit installation protocol, which follows a very specific trajectory. Most folks treat willpower like it's this static personality trait, like you either have it or you don't. But the reality? Willpower is a muscle, and it grows specifically when you voluntarily put yourself into conditions of discomfort. Waking up at 5 a.m. when it's dark and cold outside, it isn't supposed to feel good at first. That friction is exactly what builds the self-control you need to run the rest of your life at an elite level.
The source actually breaks this down into a highly specific timeline. Any world-class habit goes through 3 distinct phases. First, you've got 22 days of destruction, where you are actively tearing down your old neurological pathways. And yeah, it's really hard. Then you enter the next 22 days of installation. This is known as the messy middle. It feels chaotic, and honestly, this is where most people quit, because they think the habit just isn't working for them. Finally, you reach the last 22 days of integration, which is where the new behavior actually begins to hardwire itself into your human operating system. Which brings us to this incredibly important number, 66. Research cited in the source material from University College London shows it takes an absolute minimum of 66 days of continuous training to fully install a new habit. Not 21 days, 66 days. This proves that early rising, or achieving domain dominance in anything, really, is a measurable system. It is not a genetic gift. If you can simply push through that biological friction for 66 days, the habit permanently locks in. But listen, dragging yourself out of bed at 5 a.m. is pretty much useless if you're just going to spend the next hour scrolling on your phone, right? To truly capitalize on that newly acquired time, you need the 20-20-20 formula. This deconstructs that 5 a.m. victory hour into 3 precise 20-minute pockets: move, reflect, and grow. This isn't just some nice feel-good schedule. It's a carefully engineered protocol designed to literally alter your brain chemistry before the sun even comes up.
Let's literally walk through this minute by minute. Step 1 is move, right from 5 to 5:20 a.m. Step 2 is reflect, from 5:20 to 5:40 a.m., where you journal, meditate, or plan your day to engage that heart set and soul set. And step 3 is grow, from 5:40 to 6 a.m., which is entirely dedicated to reading or learning so you can upgrade your mindset. But hear this, the absolute non-negotiable rule of this entire system is pocket 1. Intense, sweaty exercise the very moment you jump out of bed is mandatory. Honestly, if you don't sweat, the formula just fails. So why is sweating so critical? Because it engineers the neurobiology of greatness. That intense movement cleanses your brain of cortisol, that stress hormone built up from sleep. It triggers the release of BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which actually repairs brain cells and accelerates your neural connections. It spikes your dopamine for drive and your serotonin for happiness. You aren't just waking up. You are biochemically manipulating your brain to operate at a state of pure biological genius for the rest of the day. All right, so you've won the morning, your neurobiology is primed, your 4 interior empires are perfectly balanced, and your willpower is flexed. But how does this morning optimization actually change your workday? Because if you just take this supercharged state and plug it into a broken, outdated work model, well, you're going to waste all that potential. So let's look at how elite performers actually translate this morning biology into daytime output. See, the average worker is stuck operating on the old thinking model. That's 8 or more hours of linear grinding, constantly checking emails, getting distracted by notifications, and just slowly depleting their cognitive energy until they are completely exhausted. But the better model, the one utilized by world-class creatives and executives, is the twin cycles of elite performance. They inherently understand that to protect their assets of genius, they absolutely must alternate between cycles of high performance and cycles of deep, restorative recovery. And that brings us to a wildly practical framework you can use for your workday, the 90-91 rule. For the next 90 days, you schedule the first 90 minutes of your workday to focus on exactly one core project. Not checking emails, no meetings, no busy work. Just one activity that, when you complete it at a world-class level, will cause you to completely own your field. You do this in a tight bubble of total focus, with all your devices in another room. This perfectly capitalizes on that massive cognitive advantage you just built at 5 a.m. From there, this high-focus protocol builds into the rest of your day using the 60-10 method. Because human beings do their most astonishing work when they're fresh, elite creatives operate way more like sprinters than marathoners. You work with ferocious intensity for 60 minutes, and then, and this is crucial, you actively recover for 10 minutes. You step away, you go for a walk, listen to some music, or just meditate. This oscillation completely prevents burnout and keeps your brain operating in that highly creative right hemisphere all day long. Now, when you combine the 5 a.m. 20-20-20 morning routine with these intense oscillation frameworks during your workday, you completely change your trajectory. But what is the ultimate hidden reward of committing to this grueling 66-day installation process? I mean, why put yourself through the pain of the messy metal at all? Well, it's not just about waking up early, it's about fundamentally altering the mechanics of how you exert effort. The ultimate reward is reaching what the source calls the automaticity point. This is the exact moment when waking up at 5 a.m. and executing your routine requires absolutely zero effort. The habit is finally hardwired. And here is the real genius of the system. All that willpower you used for those 66 days, it is now entirely freed up. You can take that willpower and redirect it to install the next world-class habit, and then the next. By systematically stacking habits through this exact protocol, discipline eventually becomes effortless. So I'll leave you with this question. If you knew that the pain of discipline was only temporary, but the system it builds lasts forever, what habit are you going to start installing tomorrow at 5 a.m.?